Toward a nursemaid would not have abandoned a child. That doesn't make any sense. I know, and forgive me. I've been trying to remember exactly how Catherine came to be at the mission. It was before my time here, and I've forgotten the details. She'd already arrived when I first discovered this place, but I understand they'd found her sleeping on the doorstep one morning. She had nothing but the clothes on her back. Mrs. Keller nodded. And, of course, she couldn't tell anyone where she came from because she couldn't speak. That's right. She didn't say more than a word or two until months after she'd come to live with me. Did you ever find out why she wouldn't speak for so long? We took her to a doctor, and he believes she'd been badly frightened by something. And now that she's started talking again, has she ever told you anything about her past? She occasionally has a frightening memory, but nothing that makes any sense. Whatever it was, I don't think she remembers completely, and I'm not sure I want her to. I can understand that. So tell me more about this woman who came to see you. I have to say I didn't want to believe her, but she has a very interesting story. Sarah braced herself. What did she tell you? She said she lived with Catherine and her mother in a cottage in the country somewhere north of the city. Harlem, I think she said. Catherine's father would come to visit them from time to time. Miss Murphy knew him only as Mr. Smith, but she understood this was not his real name. He was quite wealthy, and he kept Catherine's mother as his mistress. Stories like this were much too common, and Sarah knew they rarely ended well for the women involved. Did she tell you how Catherine ended up here? She said Catherine's mother believed her life to be in danger, so she asked Miss Murphy to take Catherine away and keep her safe. Sarah gasped. So this Anne Murphy abandoned her to strangers? I was as appalled as you, but Miss Murphy pointed out that she did not know Mr. Smith's true identity, or how extensive his power might be. She didn't even know if Mr. Smith himself wanted Catherine's mother dead, or if it was someone else. With no idea who her enemies were, she decided to hide Catherine someplace she'd be safe, and then disappear herself. She'd hoped to come back for the child later. It's been almost a year. I know. I pointed that out, and asked her where she'd been all this time. She said she'd found work and waited for Catherine's mother to get in touch with her, but she never did. She decided that since no one had come asking about the child in all this time, that it must be safe, so she'd returned to claim her. This was the most ridiculous story Sarah had ever heard. Did you believe her? Mrs. Keller sighed. Not entirely, no. There may be some truth to her story, but I had no way of judging which part or how much. What did you tell her? I told her Catherine had left the mission. That upset her, as you can imagine. She obviously cares for the child. How much could she really care if she just left her here all this time? Oddly, that is the one part of the story I did believe. She is still genuinely frightened of something or someone, even now. When I told her Catherine had gone, she feared the people who wanted to kill her mother had somehow gotten the child as well. I assured her that Catherine was safe and sound and very happy, but she refused to believe me. She demanded to see her. Oh dear, Catherine is home alone with Maeve. What if she shows up while I'm gone? I didn't tell her about you, Mrs. Brandt. You must believe I would never betray your confidence. Relief surged through her. Thank you, Mrs. Keller. I shouldn't have doubted you. Mrs. Keller waved away her apology. As I said, I didn't believe her story. Or rather, I didn't know what part of her story to believe, so I decided I should tell you what happened and